You know, all of those things are like that's the whole package of J to the fray. We call her J to the fray. All of the friends who know Janine very well. Now she's J to the fray to the thorn, because
Yeah.
that's her new name. But tell us a little bit about more than intermittent fasting. So what I wanted to ask you is, what made you say yes to this interview? We talked a little bit the other day just about your desire to help people and kind of give people some framework and some perspective. Tell us a little bit about why yes to this interview.
Yeah. Well, we used to chop it up back in the day. So, and I have a yes in my spirit. So the first thing when you said yes, when you asked, I said yes. And that is one thing as a wife and a mom that, you know, is interesting, because as we say yes all the time, we don't make room for ourselves. And, you know, it was great to talk and share. I'm sorry. Let's
okay. No,
keep
going. No, you're good. No, keep going. No, that's good. Well, let me interject right there, you know, because, you know, guys, we're not TV professionals, right? So like, you know, we both actually work in communications, but we're not TV professionals. So I'm not going to be editing this down for anybody very much. But I do wanted to touch on the one thing you mentioned about in the framework or the context of being a mother, right? Women tend to be more maternal than men. I think that actually men and women can exhibit a combination of both paternal and maternal dynamics based on your nature versus nurture. Obviously, women tend to be more maternal instinctively. But the idea of saying yes all the time, you were kind of going into a rabbit hole where you're saying that you say yes so much to other people, whether it be work or spouse or children. It so oftentimes leads you to put yourself in the back of the bus. Talk to us about that a little bit, and how you navigate putting yourself first a little bit more.
Yeah, it's the challenge. And when you begin to do that, then it shows up for me in ways like with eating. So if I'm always committing to something else and overbooking and, you know, and trying to hit all those commitments, making myself last means that I'm more apt to that burger and fries that you talked about. You know, I'm more open to making not so smart choices, healthy choices, or not able to create opportunities to exercise and so forth. And so what I liked about the concept of intermittent fasting is that it gave me a framework to kind of build around. And so that I knew that this is my window. This is where I can just have trained my brain quickly to say, this is the time that I'm going to eat. And now I can begin to, now that I've got that off the you know, I'll check that box, so to speak. Now I can look at my caloric intake, what I'm eating, and then do those kinds of things. But without having, you know, healthy boundaries for myself and not saying yes to everything, you know, that's not as easy to do, but intermittent fasting helps make it a little bit easier.
That is very insightful. Actually, the way you put it, the idea of saying no to yourself in one area can actually become a transferable skill into multiple areas, up to and including, hey, no kid, no junior, I'm not making dinner for you, or I'm not making you a sandwich, make it yourself. And if I see you eating it, I'm gonna wanna eat it, and I'm fasting right now, right? Mm-hmm. So what I don't wanna do is make this a big infomercial for intermittent fasting, because, but I love drawing analogies one from the other. I often tell my sons, who are very into physical fitness, they lift weights. I mean, I always joke, like, these are like black Greek gods. They're chiseled, like, you know, marbles of, you know, Dionysius or whatever. You know, it's like, wow, you see these guys, and they actually inspire me. But maybe their bedroom isn't clean, or, you know, some maybe rushing to do something at the last minute. And I say, guys, take the one thing that you're very disciplined in over here, and if you just knock over the bleach bottle that that porous smell, or the intensity that you exhibit here can apply over here. Do you find that happening in your life?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I think it comes from working on mind, soul, and body, all at the same time. And so it's not always easy to do. I've seesawed in this health and fitness journey several times. And it was really because my focus was on, the look of it, as opposed to really, getting into how I was feeling mentally, spiritually, and physically. So I would say yes, that discipline is something that we all struggle with. And I know when we have, as a woman with priorities and just a lot of different things on your plate, it's really hard. But the one thing that I've learned is forgiveness. I have to forgive myself daily because I don't always get it right. And I try, but I don't always get it right. So yes, I do. I do see that discipline spill over, and I would say the discipline word, but then also consistency, because being consistent is something that also is a discipline, a part of discipline. I want to say they're cousins, and they're so close together, they're kissing cousins. But if you can have a consistency built out of a discipline, which really, again, I know this is not a commercial for intermittent fasting, but that sets the groundwork for me, the fasting, intermittent fasting, knowing the time and my window, it helps with the consistency, because every day, then we get into like a religious thing, because religiously, I can do this every day because I know it. So it becomes practice, which as a yogi is right up my alley, because practicing is a big part. It's an active thing. So
That's great. No, that's great. So the idea of I also think about, there aren't many things that we can control in the world at all, right? I mean, we can't control right now. We can't even control if you can go outside or go to a restaurant or a movie. Um, can't control those things. Can't control the weather. But and sometimes you can't control our kids or what. Like sometimes life can be chaotic at home. But the one thing that I've personally found as it relates to food, without even the fasting piece, is food. And a good friend of mine years ago, he's very fit and things like that. His mantra in life is food is an option.
hmm.
I was like, what's that supposed to mean? Well, now I know what it means, because you know you don't always have to eat. And I think, like that seems so cliche or easy to say, but it's not always easy to do. So the one thing you can control out of anything that you can't during the day is when you eat, right? But this idea of fasting, or like, sleeping through the night, and then just pushing the time that you will break your fast back to 11 o'clock or noon or 1, 2, or 3 is something that actually is doable, right? I mean, have you found that to be accurate or close?
Absolutely. And with the invention of all these apps and technology, you even have reminders now. There are apps that you can download that will even ping you. That ping me. I downloaded one that pings me when my window starts. But now it's such a practice for me, since we started in March, and seeing you and the stuff that you were doing. Now it pings me. It still pings me, but I'm used to it. So I know that that's my window. So I would say just the invention of technology and being able to use that to access and remember when you're on and off, those are helpful. Those are helpful
Yeah.
things. But I want to say about food though. Food is that's a whole nother piece within the intermittent fasting that I find interesting, because food to me is romantic. Like the word food just rolls off my tongue. I just get, yeah, I think
We
about
all do. We all do. Yeah.
grandma's cakes, I think about how the social emotional component of food for me is a big deal. Like ever since I was little, you know, our family would get together and, you know, I'm waiting for auntie's potato salad, you know, at the reunion. You know, I remember I can,
Potato pie, the sweet potato
yes,
pie is coming. It's
I can smell my grandmother's pound cake, and there's so many beautiful memories in that. But you know, you see my little body language. I'm getting wiggly even talking about food. So for a lot of people, food is a social and emotional thing. It brings us together. It makes us feel good. But what we need to, and what I'm still trying to learn, and what I'm hoping that I can share in this is there is I have to retrain my brain, and I have to think constantly about better ways to even socialize. Like when I think about even getting together with my girlfriends, it's like, oh, let's do brunch at Alki on Sunday, you know, as opposed to maybe let's do a hike. So there's a lot of different things that I need to teach myself about food, and what it really means in my life, and that being, you know, COVID, being in this COVID time where stress just piles on, and I'm an emotional, socially emotional eater. So then I'm eating because it feels
yeah,
good, comforting to me, that I can still eat within that window, within that
yeah,
time structure and that frame. And then now thinking about it smartly, like again, back to that your point about the steak and salad versus the steak and fry, I mean the burger and fries.
yeah.
So, you know, it's all of that. But you know, as a mom and as a wife and friend, um, talking to other moms, wives and friends, or dads, husbands and friends, is that the way we look at food and the way we think about it, we need to kind of, you know, maybe take a second look at it.
I'd come home from school and I'd stay with my great grandfather, who'd babysit me, air quotes, and he'd have a cabinet, a pantry filled with cereals, total, Frosted Flake, buckwheat. Remember buckwheat cereals?
Yeah.
Not buckwheat from Little Rascals, but it was called buckwheat. Anyway, buckwheats had this like maple kind of coating on it with a little bit of some nuts on it or whatever. And that was, I just ate. And do you remember the Tupperware bowls? The
It
large,
doesn't. Absolutely.
you know, remember Craig on Friday?
Uh-huh.
Man, that
Don't
was
you lose
me.
that lid. Don't you lose that lid.
Now, if you lose that lid, you're gonna be in trouble. Now Ziploc is taking over that market, thank God, and the bowls are smaller. But like for real, I would pour a big old bowl, a Tupperware bowl of cereal, and then milk. Now, fast forward, I am 48 years old now,
Mhm.
and if you ask me what my weakness is in the world, in food, it's cereal. Like
Mhm.
I eat
All the
cereal, like it's
meat.
probably like the last thing I eat every night. And it takes me all the way back to when I was 12 years old. So I think it's very insightful how we've got to kind of re-engineer our mind and the wiring around, you know, the thing that brings us all together. Part of what people are wrestling with the most now, even though I think y'all are probably saving a lot of money, is the fact that you can't go into restaurants and sit down with your girlfriends and things like that. But do you really need to do that? And I think some of this conversation is re-engineering. Hopefully it rewires some of the thinking. I like what you said about changing the way you think.
Yeah. And everything about this time is not a bad thing. I think that it has brought us a time to reflect and go back to some of those traditional things. Like now we're not able to go to brunch at Salty's, like I mentioned, you know, like now we're cooking home cooked meals, and we're sitting around the dinner table and hopefully talking to one another more. I know that in our household it is. So it really is a time to and that's kind of why I started to begin with, because it was a time now to just kind of center and get back to some of the important things, and health is one of them. I'm approaching a milestone. I know I don't look it, but I'll be approaching the 50 this year, and it's been a
What?
blessing. Yeah, yeah, I know, right?
Hey, black don't crack, people. Black don't crack. It is true. Look at this woman. She's amazing.
Yes. No, but it's a blessing. Serious, really, it's a blessing, because as I go to the doctor's office and I'm checking off all these boxes of family history, and I'm just thanking God, because as I check them off, either I've never had it, or I'm thinking of someone in my family who did and, transitioned because of it. Um, um, High blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, heart attack. I mean, those are things now that when I was filling out those doctor's forms 20 years ago, was much more passe. But now I'm getting through it like really, thank you, Lordy. Thank you, Jesus. I'm doing a high, a high
check,
praise.
check, 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 check. It's all no, 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 no. Right?
Yeah. But now I'm more intentional about, um, creating that healthy space and doing it wisely and doing less seesawing.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned something just now that we talked about yesterday about that whole idea of not just food being comfort, but food actually in some ways has put some of our loved ones and friends in the ground.
Yeah.
Right. The not I don't want to say inability to eat properly, because though you and I grew up on the south side of Chicago, there were tons of food deserts. There are probably more grocery stores then than there are now, for sure. But we had access to vegetables if we wanted to get them. But now it seems like 20 years, 30 years later, our grandparents are gone. Some of our parents are gone. I'm the first person to tell you, I don't do intermittent fasting because, oh, look at Emanuel, I'm losing weight. Look at how great I am. Not at all. My dad died of obesity.
Mm.
He died of type 2 diabetes. He died of hypertension. And he died at his third heart attack, all associated with his obesity. So that's a big driver for me. And in my mind and in my heart, soul, and spirit, and my sons will tell you, I do this to break those chains. And I feel like I've had some success here in my personal life. But the cool thing is the spillover effect of breaking a generational curse, turning something that was a curse into a blessing, is my sons are actually very healthy and mindful. Do you find that dynamic playing itself out in your family?
That's still emerging, in all honesty.
Yep.
I think that those, as you just like really well stated, that's something that is still in a work in progress. Culturally, it is a work in progress for us, as I'm struggling myself with it. So I think you do better when you know better, you do better, and it's a journey. So yes, the goal is to get better. And I am intentional about cooking more healthy, reading the ingredients and the labels, sodium and sugar content and all those things. So yeah, I would say yes. It is definitely a goal,
Good.
but it's we're still there. We're on a journey with it.
Yeah.
Especially with a tween.
Right.
Tween in the house. So he's all into that sugar right now. I have to monitor, and then I want to develop, like it sounds like you have with your sons, the desire and the passion organically, and not make it this this that Uncle Sam poster, like you there, you got to do this. I don't want to do that because it'll push in another direction. So there's some challenges to it, definitely.
Sure.
But you're right. Like growing up on the south side of Chicago, we had access to fruits and vegetables and markets. I saw later, as gentrification started to take effect, that those things were less likely. What I love about Washington State and being here, even though sweet home Chicago always be my home, peeps. But what I love about Washington is the access to that stuff is just as fresh fruits and vegetables, that they're plentiful. I can walk.
You're tripping over like a whole market outside your door, probably.
Yeah, and not only the market aspect, but I walk outside my door in about 5 minutes. I can be on a trail, and I feel like I'm in the Amazon. With all this beauty. So it's something that even if you're not a part in that, even if you're at home and you're just able to go up and down the stairs and put some music on, to do that, or it's just finding again that space for yourself and saying yes to yourself first, which I'm not trying to preach to anybody. I'm kind of preaching to myself and hoping that that somebody can glean something from that.
Yeah, that's great. So like the idea of saying yes to yourself sometimes means saying no to other people. And as a two-time divorce champion, like, I'm not going to talk about marriage or what I know about marriage. I have learned some things from both of those experiences. And the one thing that I would say is, whether it was in my relationship, my marital relationship, I often would remind my spouse, listen, I'm not here you're not here to make dinner for me and to cook for me all the time, right? And so, and I say the same thing to my sons. I
Can you say
tell
that again?
say it for the spouses and kids in the back.
In the
No,
chicken.
I tell my son, and my son is over there right now, and he just made dinner for me, him, and his brother.
Yeah.
And I say, look, I bought all this food. I schlepped it from the store. You're going to bring it up the stairs.
Yeah.
You're going to put it away, and you're going to make most of the meals in this house. Now, my sons are older, 18 and 20, or 21, but they've been cooking since they were 12 years old.
Absolutely. Same here. Same here.
Oh.
And the same principle applies. And now that he is 12, in my sinister laugh, I can put him to work. So he does all of that, right? He's there getting the grocery, and then it's a family affair, right? So then everybody can take part in chopping vegetables while somebody else is boiling water, while something else is happening, and we're all kind of learning and growing together. What I would love to do and get into is just maybe even growing some vegetables, and so we can see how all of that comes from, that harvest, and how it feeds and nourishes us. So that's the next step of what I want to get to. But I agree with you 100%. We're on the same page, my brother.
So that's the difference between, and I talk about this a lot with friends and family members who've got children or older kids, the difference between enabling a child and empowering a child, right? And sometimes there's a huge chasm. I think you and I, you referenced growing up on the South Side, Chicago. I mean, even though, like you said, I can walk outside on a trail now, like, and I can walk outside and see palm trees. I can see them there, blessed to be in that position.
Yeah.
But we grew up in the hood, right? So like at the end of the day, we have a different experience that raised us in our nature, nurture, is it nurture? Or environment is your nurture. Our nurture raised us differently. And so many of our friends, they're like, I don't want that for my kid. And so you turn your kid into Beyonce's kid and Jay-Z's kid, and they want for nothing. Then all of a sudden, they're 18, 21, 25. They ain't got no license. They don't know how to cook a meal because of you. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute, back up. I did the best I could. You did the best you could in providing, but sometimes we provide too much. And so I think in the spirit of COVID-19, it's a great opportunity. Talk about, healthy coping skills. It's also a great platform to teach your kids, not just about fasting or calories, but actually how to be responsible, contributing members of society.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that wholeheartedly. There's a discipline, and everybody has to do what's best for them. But if you can balance out, because there's nothing wrong with pampering and doing some of that. I think by virtue of being parents, that we're nurturers and protectors, even the dads, and so that's okay. But definitely helping them build those healthy habits, and then again, organically and not mechanically, and that we're not.
I've often been called Lieutenant Barr around my house.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I can appreciate that.
I'm directing.
And that's why I thought it's so powerful to have a woman's perspective on that, because I can look at some of my friends who are moms, be like, why you let them run all over you? Make them do their own laundry. They can, if they can wipe their butt, then they can make a sandwich,
We started as a little boy, baking cookies, with healthy ingredients, or just watching him watching me and helping me make vegetable soup, or some whatever dinner it was, and just having him a part of that process, instead of having him having our children wait in another room or get busy and preoccupied doing some other things, as if that's something that is only for moms to do, or for adults to
Right.
do, or dad.
That's right. Yeah.
That it's
Yeah.
something that they can be responsible and play their age appropriate part in.
Yeah, I like that word, the phrase, the age appropriate. Obviously, kids, as long as they can walk and they can, demand for you to make something for them, they can actually contribute to something. Maybe even if it's cereal, even if it's buckwheat cereal, they can pour it themselves. But so we're running out of time here. This could be an hour-long discussion. It won't be, because first ones people to come back. This has been compelling. It's a conversation that hopefully our viewers are able to feel like it's a part of their home right now, right? And if it's a part of your home, then it can become a part of the way you think too. We don't have the corner market on healthy coping skills, but hopefully just these types of conversations are better than Tiger King and Black AF. They're beneficial, like a steak and salad. I'm talking about food a lot. I must be getting hungry. So 2 things. Tell us your fasting schedule as far as intermittent fasting. And then the second part of that question is, if you had a magic wand and you waved it over our viewers, what one thing would you want them to walk away with?
Okay.
So your fasting schedule, and then what you hope for people to take away.
Okay. Fasting schedule, 16-hour fast, and 8 hours eating window. And that generally, it's been really it's been less challenging for me, because with those 16 hours off, most of them are while I'm sleeping. I stop eating at 8, and then I'm fasting, and I break the fast at noon, and then my eating window is between 12 and 8. And that's kind of where I am right now. And as we were talking the other day, I'd love to expand that. So I'm looking at pushing the envelope towards 20. But for me, it was what worked so well for me with the fasting. It was a concept that I was familiar with, because I've done spiritual fasts. So it was a way for me to tie in my spiritual practice with my health in a more intentional way. So that's what I do, and that's what I like. And
that's powerful. And so the idea of having a fasting window, meaning you sleep through most of it, then the remaining 4 hours, you just skip what we know as breakfast. But you've heard me say in different videos, breakfast is a compound word, break fast. So really, you're just, instead of breaking it at 8 a.m., you're breaking it at noon.
Yeah.
So that's great, Janine. I'm proud of you. And part of the reason, guys, by the way, why I asked Janine, besides her outgoing, dynamic personality, to do this interview with me, is because, and I haven't talked to you in at least a year or two, whatever, even through text messaging. I've been watching Janine's face go like this. It's getting smaller, smaller, smaller. And then she'd make comments like, yo, I'm clipping with you, dog. And I'm like, I see you, Jay. I see you over there. So whatever you're doing is working. Keep going. And I'm here to provide moral support for you.
Thanks.
Second part of that question.
Yeah.
Second part of the question.
No, thank you for that encouragement. A friend of mine, my cousin introduced me to intermittent fasting a couple years ago. And at that point in time, I was on a different fitness journey. So I just kind of put it in my little backpack and kept moving. But again, in this seesaw period of my life, and I saw you on social media, and I thought it was the perfect opportunity to pick it back up, because and it leads into the second part of the question that you asked, which is, what's the one thing to take away, or what I would want people to take away? And it's that this thing is a journey. It's a journey. So there's some times in your life where you'll be more committed. You might be more committed than others. even some of the best fitness and health and fitness folks out there, and we all see them all over social media, will say that, you know, discipline and consistency are two of the main things that from time to time we all struggle with, no matter where you are on the journey. And so at this part of the journey, what I want you to take away is that it is a journey, and that you have to find what works best for you. This works well for me because it ties into my spiritual practice. So knowing that it's a journey, and then you can forgive yourself, be forgiving. If it doesn't work the first time, you know, I hate that to use this cliche about try and try again, but if it's not this, then something else, and know that there is something that can fit and will fit for you, physically, mentally, spiritually. And you'll see people that are doing different things, and everybody's journey is different. So you'll see, you know, the chiseled, muscle-bound folks, and you'll think that that's so hard, that's so aspirational, so hard for me to get to that, being where I am, and with my commitment as, you know, parent, partner, all of those work expectations or lack thereof, furloughed right now, whatever that is, that, you know, that's all that chiseled muscle bound stuff is aspirational, and it's so hard. Be forgiving, take baby steps, do your best, and focus in, and remember it's a journey. So those are the two things that I would say to that I'd like for you to take away, because those are the two things that I'm working on. So hopefully that can help you.
Okay, that's your magic wand for those two things. You know, I have a thing, kind of, you know, Facebook has a thing where you can put something in the backdrop. I put this up recently. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but it is a habit. And so you're exhibiting that habit life, or that journey. You know, if you're going on a journey, you have a destination, right? You told me some of your goals and stuff like that, and so you have that in your crosshairs. And if you don't fast, or if you do, if you eat something wrong, or if you don't, you get back up and you consistently do it. These interviews are not an attempt to tell people, leave your personal trainer, don't take supplements, all those things. Not at all. It is a tool, you know, one tool, and hopefully you have like several based on this conversation. I'll try to do a recap. One is intermittent fasting. You hear me talk about it, now you're hearing Janine talk about it. The other one is engaging your family during this time in COVID-19, and becoming more active, productive citizens in the world by spending more time together, chopping vegetables, having them do their own laundry, finding ways also to exercise, right? You don't have to be a part of a gym. Gyms are great. We need them. Can't wait for them to open again. But you can also go for a walk. Sometimes the stay-at-home order gets all people like, I'm on electronic monitoring in my home. No, you can walk around in your community or jog in your community. So there's a bunch of different tools hopefully you can walk away with. The main thing is really doing the new habit. And habits start in the way you think. And I love the way you put that, Janine, about it being a journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It definitely is. And it's a lifelong journey, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's ahead.
Yeah, well, and so are we. We're all going to clip with you guys. Keep following Janine. I think she's like JFT or which I can't remember.
JFT, yeah.
JFT Elemental P. You'll see her online. Actually, we're going to capture this video and then make it a YouTube link, and so it'll be on my YouTube page. And the YouTube pages will be entitled Emanuel's Fast Break. So kind of playing on the idea of breaking a fast without making it all about that. You know, because we need a fast break out of our houses. Help us, let us out, Governor, please. Please, let's go. We got to make a fast break for it. So you'll see that link, and that YouTube clip will be available at a little bit of a later time. Next week, we're actually going to interview another colleague of mine, and I wish I could do his before and after here. This gentleman is over 60 and has lost, I want to say 30 to 60 pounds in the last 18 months. So very cool. Want to hit these different demographics. Janine, you represent the 20-somethings.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, you know,
You are
Janine
too
represents the
kind.
20
Thank you.
somethings and she represents women, right? But my colleague, Steve Martin, actually is going to be on next week. And hopefully you can hear his story. And to your point, Janine, hear him on his journey. It's been great having you.
Yes, it's been great. If I need to come back and do some more after later, let me know. Another after, when all this weight
The
is
after,
gone.
after party like we did at, what was the name of that place? Judson Fellowship at NIU. There's
No,
always 3 after parties.
no. Oh, no, no, the Wesley Foundation. You can't forget that one.
Wesley Foundation. That's where House Mike and all the guys, Big C,
Yes.
cut their teeth and
And then
cut their teeth.
Julius, who is Chef Julius now, but he was Tiki then, and a
Tiki.
gourmet chef in his own right, right?
Look.
Culinary skills to boot. You know what I'm saying? So but the Wesley Foundation was where I saw and I met De La Soul. Remember when they came to Wesley Foundation?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Well, look, shout out to all of the homies and homettes from NIU, from
Yes.
DeKalb, from Chicago,
Love
and
you.
around the country. Janine, you want to give any shout outs to the homegirls?
Yeah, to my sorors of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. To all of
Oh,
my,
brother, eyes rolling in the back of my head.
I know.
Stacy Clayton, what's up?
Yes, all my sorors, all my friends and family, to my brothers and sisters in Christ, and just to everybody everywhere. Spread love. I'm a yogi, so kindness matters. I don't know if you can see this. Kindness matters. Spread love, and like in the words of the immortal Don Cornelius, love, peace, and soul.
Peace, guys. Thanks. Tune in next week. See you soon. Thank you, Janine.
Okay, bye.